You don't wake up one day and become unstoppable. That's not how it works. What actually happens is much quieter, much deeper. It begins with a decision, an internal shift that no one else can see. A belief forms, and that belief starts to guide every choice you make. Most people think success is about tactics, about strategies, about doing more. But the truth is, none of that matters if the foundation is broken. And that foundation is your mindset. Because if you wake up every day doubting yourself, questioning your worth, waiting for permission, you've already lost before you even begin. But the moment you decide that your life is your responsibility, everything changes. You stop waiting, you stop blaming, you start building. And it begins with a simple belief: I am in control. Not control of everything that happens, but control of how you respond, control of your effort, control of your attitude. And that's where power lives. Another belief: growth is uncomfortable, and that's okay. We've been conditioned to avoid discomfort, to seek safety. But nothing extraordinary has ever come from comfort. The people who change the world, the people who build something meaningful, they lean into the discomfort. They understand that pain is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that you're evolving. And then there's consistency. We love the idea of motivation, the excitement, the spark. But sparks don't build fires, consistency does. It's the quiet discipline, the days when no one is watching, the effort when you don't feel like it. That's what creates unstoppable momentum. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep going. Another belief: your why matters more than your what. Anyone can copy what you do. Anyone can imitate your actions. But no one can replicate your purpose. And when your purpose is strong enough, you don't need external motivation. It comes from within. It pulls you forward even on the hardest days. And then comes responsibility. It's easy to point fingers, to say it's the environment, the circumstances, the people around you. But the moment you take full ownership of your life, you take back your power, because now it's on you. And that's not a burden, it's freedom. Finally, understand this: success is not about you, it's about the impact you create, the people you serve, the difference you make. When your focus shifts from proving yourself to serving something greater, everything becomes clearer, your work gains meaning, your effort gains purpose, and that's what makes you unstoppable. Not talent, not luck, not perfect timing, but a mindset built on belief, purpose, discipline, and responsibility. So if you're waiting for the right moment, this is it. If you're waiting to feel ready, you won't. And if you're waiting for permission, you don't need it. Start where you are. Build what you can, and most importantly, believe that you are capable of more. Everything begins with a reason, but most people rush past it, chasing results without ever understanding the force that sustains them when things fall apart. Your why is not a slogan you repeat when you feel inspired. It is the anchor that holds you steady when motivation disappears. Research consistently shows that people driven by purpose are significantly more resilient, more focused, and far more likely to achieve long-term success than those chasing external rewards alone. When you know why you wake up every morning, decisions become clearer, distractions lose their power, and obstacles stop looking like reasons to quit and start looking like challenges to solve. Without a strong why, even the best strategies collapse under pressure, because strategy can guide you, but only purpose can carry you through the moments when everything feels uncertain. Think about how many people start strong but fade quickly. It's rarely because they lack talent or opportunity. It's because they lack a deep emotional connection to what they are doing. When your why is weak, discipline feels like punishment. When your why is strong, discipline becomes a natural extension of who you are. Studies in behavioral psychology suggest that individuals who connect their actions to a meaningful purpose are more than twice as likely to stay committed during difficult phases. That means your success is not just about working harder, it's about aligning your actions with something that truly matters to you. Your why gives your effort meaning, and meaning is what turns repetition into progress. Your why also protects you from comparison. In a world where everyone is constantly measuring themselves against others, it's easy to lose direction. But when you are grounded in your purpose, you stop chasing someone else's version of success. You stop reacting to trends, opinions, and noise. Instead, you move with clarity, knowing that your path is defined by your values, not by external validation. This creates a level of confidence that cannot be shaken by temporary failures or criticism. It allows you to stay focused when others get distracted, to stay patient when others give up, and to stay committed when results take time. Clarity of purpose doesn't just impact your mindset, it directly affects your performance. Neuroscience research shows that when your brain connects actions to meaningful goals, it releases higher levels of dopamine, increasing motivation, focus, and persistence. This is why people who are deeply connected to their why often appear more energetic and driven, even under pressure. They are not relying on willpower alone, they are fueled by something deeper. And that fuel doesn't run out easily. Your why also evolves over time. What drives you today may not be the same thing that drives you years from now, and that's not a weakness, it's growth. The key is to keep revisiting it, refining it, and strengthening it. Because the clearer your why becomes, the stronger your direction becomes. And when direction is strong, decisions become faster, actions become sharper, and progress becomes inevitable. When you operate from purpose, you stop asking if something is easy or difficult, and you start asking if it aligns with what truly matters. That shift changes everything. It removes hesitation, eliminates doubt, and replaces confusion with clarity. It transforms effort into intention and turns ordinary actions into meaningful steps forward. And once that connection is established, once your actions are rooted in something real and powerful, you begin to move differently, think differently, and show up with a level of consistency that most people never reach, because you are no longer driven by fleeting motivation, but by something that runs far deeper within. Everything you do is filtered through what you believe, whether you realize it or not. Before action, before effort, before results, there is a quiet assumption in your mind about what is possible for you. That assumption shapes your choices in ways that are almost invisible, yet incredibly powerful. People often think reality is something fixed, something external, something they simply react to. But the truth is, your perception of reality is constantly being constructed by your beliefs, and that perception directly influences the outcomes you create. Studies in cognitive psychology show that individuals who believe their abilities can grow are significantly more likely to embrace challenges, persist through setbacks, and ultimately outperform those who see their abilities as fixed. That difference in belief alone can determine whether someone stops at the first obstacle or keeps going long enough to succeed. When you believe something is possible, your brain starts looking for ways to make it happen. It becomes more alert to opportunities, more willing to take calculated risks, and more resilient in the face of difficulty. On the other hand, when you believe something is out of reach, your mind subtly shuts down those same pathways. You hesitate more, you overanalyze, and you often don't even try. It's not that the opportunity isn't there, it's that your belief system filters it out before you can act on it. Research on self-efficacy suggests that people with strong belief in their capabilities are far more likely to take initiative and follow through, even in uncertain conditions. That means belief doesn't just influence how you feel, it directly impacts what you do and how consistently you do it. Belief also shapes how you interpret failure. For some, failure is proof that they are not good enough. For others, it is simply feedback, a necessary step in the process of improvement. The difference is not the event itself, but the meaning assigned to it. When your belief system is built on growth and possibility, setbacks become temporary and manageable. You learn, adjust, and continue forward. But when your beliefs are rooted in limitation, every setback feels final, reinforcing the idea that success is not meant for you. Over time, this creates a cycle where limited beliefs lead to limited actions, which produce limited results, which then strengthen those same beliefs. There is also a measurable impact on performance when belief is involved. The placebo effect alone demonstrates how powerful the mind can be, with studies showing that people can experience real, measurable improvements simply because they believe something will work. In performance settings, this translates into confidence, focus, and persistence. Athletes, entrepreneurs, and high performers across fields often credit their success not just to skill, but to an unshakable belief that they will find a way. That belief doesn't eliminate difficulty, but it changes how they respond to it. Instead of seeing barriers, they see problems to solve. Your environment plays a role in shaping your beliefs, but it does not have to define them. Many people grow up surrounded by limitations, by doubt, by messages that tell them what they cannot do. Over time, those messages become internalized, turning into beliefs that feel like facts. But beliefs are not facts, they are interpretations. And interpretations can be challenged, questioned, and changed. The moment you begin to consciously examine what you believe about yourself, you create the opportunity to rewrite those internal narratives. Changing belief is not about repeating empty affirmations. It's about building evidence. Every small action you take, every promise you keep to yourself, every challenge you face and move through becomes proof that you are capable of more than you once thought. That evidence accumulates, gradually reshaping your belief system from the inside out. And as your beliefs evolve, so does your behavior. You start aiming higher, acting with more confidence, and staying committed longer than before. Over time, this shift compounds. What once felt impossible starts to feel achievable. What once felt intimidating starts to feel manageable. And what once felt out of reach begins to move within your grasp, not because the world suddenly changed, but because the way you see yourself and your potential has fundamentally transformed, allowing you to act in ways that align with a much stronger and more empowering internal reality most. People overestimate what they can achieve in a short burst of effort and underestimate what they can build through steady, repeated action. Intensity feels powerful in the moment. It creates a rush, a sense of urgency, a temporary spike in motivation. But intensity is difficult to sustain, and when it fades, so does the progress attached to it. Consistency, on the other hand, is quiet, almost unnoticeable at first, yet far more powerful over time. Research in habit formation suggests that small actions performed daily are significantly more likely to stick and produce lasting results than large irregular efforts. The difference is not in how hard you push once, but in how often you show up when no one is watching. When you rely on intensity, you become dependent on feeling ready, motivated, or inspired. And those feelings are unpredictable. Some days they are there, most days they are not. This creates an unstable pattern where effort comes in waves, followed by long periods of inactivity. Over time, this inconsistency breaks momentum and makes progress feel slower than it actually is. Consistency removes that uncertainty. It replaces emotional decision-making with commitment. You act not because you feel like it, but because it is part of who you are. That shift transforms effort from something temporary into something reliable. There is also a psychological advantage to consistency that often goes unnoticed. Each time you follow through on a small commitment, you reinforce a sense of trust in yourself. You begin to see yourself as someone who does what they say they will do. Studies in behavioral psychology indicate that self-trust plays a critical role in long-term achievement, influencing everything from persistence to confidence. When that trust is strong, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop looking for excuses. You simply act. And those actions, repeated over time, create a foundation that intensity alone can never build. Consistency also reduces resistance. Large, intense efforts can feel overwhelming, which often leads to procrastination or avoidance. But when the focus shifts to smaller, manageable actions, the barrier to starting becomes much lower. You no longer need perfect conditions or a surge of energy to begin. You just need to take the next step. And once that step becomes part of your routine, it requires less mental effort to continue. This is how momentum is built, not through force, but through repetition. From a performance perspective, consistency allows for gradual improvement. Instead of pushing to the limit and burning out, you create space for learning, adjustment, and refinement. Each day becomes an opportunity to get slightly better, to correct mistakes, and to build on previous efforts. Over time, these small improvements compound, leading to results that appear significant from the outside, but are actually the product of countless small actions. This compounding effect is what separates those who achieve lasting success from those who experience short-lived bursts of progress. There is also resilience that comes with consistency. When challenges arise, and they always do, a consistent routine provides stability. It gives you something to fall back on, a structure that keeps you moving forward even when circumstances are not ideal. Intensity often disappears in the face of difficulty, but consistency adapts. It allows you to adjust the level of effort without abandoning the process entirely. This flexibility ensures that progress continues, even if it slows down temporarily. Over time, consistency reshapes your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to achieve something. You begin to see yourself as someone who lives it daily. That identity shift is powerful because it aligns your actions with your self-image. When those two are in sync, effort becomes natural, almost automatic. You don't need constant reminders or external pressure. Because your behavior is driven from within, what starts as small, disciplined actions gradually becomes a way of operating. The need for intensity fades, replaced by a steady rhythm that carries you forward regardless of how you feel on any given day. And as that rhythm strengthens, results begin to follow, not in sudden leaps, but in a continuous progression that builds quietly until it becomes impossible to ignore, driven by a level of persistence that does not rely on emotion, but on a deeply ingrained pattern of showing up again and again, no matter what the circumstances may. Discomfort is often treated like a warning sign, something to avoid, something that signals you are moving in the wrong direction. But in reality, discomfort is one of the most reliable indicators that you are stepping beyond your current limits. It is not a barrier, it is a doorway. Research in psychology consistently shows that individuals who regularly step outside their comfort zones develop higher levels of adaptability, resilience, and long-term performance. Growth does not happen when everything feels easy and familiar. It happens when you are stretched, when you are challenged, when you are forced to confront uncertainty and push through it. The very feeling most people run from is the same feeling that precedes transformation. When you choose comfort over discomfort, you choose familiarity over progress. You stay within the boundaries of what you already know, repeating the same patterns, producing the same results. It feels safe, but that safety comes at a cost. Over time, avoiding discomfort limits your potential. not because you lack ability, but because you never give yourself the chance to discover it. On the other hand, when you lean into discomfort, you begin to expand those boundaries. What once felt difficult becomes manageable, and what once felt impossible begins to feel achievable. This process is gradual, but it is powerful, and it is backed by evidence showing that repeated exposure to challenging situations increases both confidence and competence over time. Discomfort also plays a critical role in building mental strength. When you face something difficult and push through it, you send a signal to yourself that you are capable of handling more than you thought. That signal strengthens your self-belief, making future challenges feel less intimidating. Studies on stress adaptation reveal that moderate levels of stress, when approached with the right mindset, can actually enhance performance and increase resilience. This means discomfort is not something that weakens you. It is something that, when managed correctly, makes you stronger. It trains your mind to stay focused under pressure, to remain steady in uncertainty, and to keep moving forward even when things are not ideal. There is also a neurological component to this. When you engage in activities that challenge you, your brain forms new neural connections, a process known as neuroplasticity. This is how learning happens. This is how improvement happens. Without challenge, without that sense of difficulty, the brain has no reason to adapt. It stays efficient at what it already knows, but it does not grow. By embracing discomfort, you are actively participating in your own development, forcing your mind and body to evolve in response to new demands. Over time, this leads to increased capability, sharper thinking, and a greater capacity to handle complex situations. Discomfort also shifts your relationship with fear. Instead of seeing fear as something to avoid, you begin to see it as a signal that you are moving in a meaningful direction. This reframing changes how you respond. You stop hesitating at the edge of uncertainty and start stepping into it with intention. Fear does not disappear, but it loses its control over your decisions. You act despite it, not because it is gone, but because you understand that it is part of the process. This ability to move forward in the presence of discomfort is what separates those who grow from those who remain stuck. Over time, your tolerance for discomfort increases. Situations that once felt overwhelming begin to feel normal. Challenges that once required significant effort become part of your routine. This does not mean things get easier. It means you become stronger. Your capacity expands, allowing you to take on bigger goals, face greater challenges, and operate at a higher level. This expansion is not sudden. It is the result of consistent exposure to situations that test you and push you beyond your current limits. What begins as a conscious decision to face discomfort gradually becomes a habit, a way of approaching life that prioritizes growth over ease. You start to seek out challenges not because they are comfortable, but because you understand their value. You recognize that every moment of difficulty carries the potential for development, and every step outside your comfort zone brings you closer to a stronger, more capable version of yourself, shaped by experiences that demanded more from you and revealed strengths you might never have discovered if you had chosen to stay where everything felt safe and predictable. Responsibility is often misunderstood as pressure, as weight, as something that limits freedom rather than creates it. Most people resist it because it feels like an obligation, something that forces them into effort and accountability. But when you look deeper, the opposite is true. The more responsibility you take for your life, the more control you gain over its direction. Research in psychology shows that individuals with a strong internal locus of control, those who believe they are responsible for their outcomes, tend to perform better, handle stress more effectively, and achieve higher levels of success over time. This is because they do not wait for circumstances to change. They take action to influence those circumstances. And in doing so, they create opportunities that others never see. When you avoid responsibility, you give away your power. You begin to believe that. Your situation is determined by external factors, by other people, by luck, or by timing. This mindset may feel comfortable in the short term because it removes the burden of accountability, but it also removes the ability to change anything. If everything is outside your control, then nothing is within your control. This creates a cycle where inaction feels justified and progress feels out of reach. On the other hand, when you take responsibility, even for things that are not entirely your fault, you shift your focus from what you cannot control to what you can. That shift alone changes how you think, how you act, and ultimately, what results you produce. Responsibility brings clarity. Instead of reacting emotionally to situations, you start analyzing them with intention. You ask better questions. What can I learn from this? What can I do differently? What is the next step I can take? This kind of thinking leads to better decisions, and better decisions lead to better outcomes. Studies in decision-making behavior suggest that people who take ownership of their choices are more likely to reflect, adapt, and improve over time. They do not repeat the same mistakes because they see themselves as part of the equation, not as victims of it. There is also a strong connection between responsibility and discipline. When you accept that your results are a direct reflection of your actions, excuses lose their power. You stop justifying inaction and start focusing on execution. This builds consistency because your actions are no longer dependent on how you feel in the moment. They are guided by a commitment to your goals and your values. Over time, this discipline compounds, leading to progress that feels steady and reliable rather than random and unpredictable. Responsibility also strengthens your confidence. Every time you take ownership of a situation and handle it, you build evidence that you are capable. This evidence reinforces your belief in yourself, making future challenges feel less overwhelming. Confidence in this sense is not something you wait for, it is something you build through action. And the more responsibility you take, the more opportunities you create to build that confidence. Another important aspect is how responsibility impacts your relationships and influence. People are naturally drawn to those who take ownership, who do not deflect blame, who stand by their actions. This builds trust, and trust creates opportunities. Whether in personal or professional environments, those who are seen as reliable and accountable are more likely to be given responsibility, leadership roles, and chances to grow. In this way, taking responsibility does not just improve your internal state, it also expands your external opportunities. Freedom, in this context, is not about doing whatever you want in the moment. It is about having the ability to shape your future, to make choices that align with your goals, and to move in a direction that you define. Responsibility is what makes that possible. It gives you the tools to respond to challenges, to adapt to change, and to keep moving forward regardless of circumstances. Over time, this mindset transforms how you experience life. You stop feeling stuck because you recognize that there's always something you can do. You stop waiting because you understand that progress begins with action. And you stop blaming because you realize that your energy is better spent building than explaining. This shift does not make life easier, but it makes it more meaningful because you are actively participating in the creation of your own path, guided by a sense of ownership that turns every challenge into an opportunity to grow and every decision into a step toward a future that is shaped by your own choices rather than by forces outside of your control. Most people begin their journey focused on themselves, on what they can gain, how they can win, how they can prove something to the world. That focus can create short bursts of motivation, but it rarely sustains long-term success. What truly endures is a shift from self-centered ambition to purpose-driven contribution. When you begin to serve something bigger than yourself, your energy changes, your perspective expands, and your commitment deepens in ways that personal gain alone can never achieve. Research in motivation and behavioral science consistently shows that individuals who connect their work to a larger purpose demonstrate higher levels of persistence, creativity, and overall satisfaction. They are not just working for outcomes, they are working for impact, and that difference transforms how they show up every day. When your focus is only on yourself, every obstacle feels personal. Every setback feels like a reflection of your worth. This creates emotional volatility, where your confidence rises and falls based on external results. But when you shift your focus to serving others, to contributing to a cause, to creating value beyond your own needs, those same obstacles take on a different meaning. They become part of a larger mission, something that matters beyond temporary discomfort. This perspective builds resilience, because your reason for continuing is no longer tied to immediate success or failure. It is tied to something far more meaningful. Serving something bigger also sharpens your sense of direction. Instead of chasing every opportunity that promises personal gain, you begin to filter your decisions through a deeper question: does this contribute to the impact I want to create? This clarity reduces distraction and increases focus. It allows you to invest your time and energy into what truly matters, rather than spreading yourself thin across pursuits that offer little long-term value. Studies in goal alignment suggest that when actions are connected to a meaningful purpose, individuals are more likely to stay committed and less likely to abandon their efforts when challenges arise. There is also a powerful effect on performance when your work benefits others. Knowing that your actions have a positive impact creates a sense of responsibility that goes beyond obligation. It becomes a source of intrinsic motivation, where effort is driven not by external rewards, but by the desire to make a difference. This type of motivation is more sustainable and often leads to higher quality work because it is rooted in care and intention. People who operate from this mindset tend to go further, push harder, and remain consistent even when recognition is absent. Serving something bigger than yourself also changes how you define success. It moves you away from metrics that are purely personal and toward outcomes that reflect contribution and impact. This shift can be incredibly freeing because it removes the constant pressure to prove your worth. Instead of asking whether you are enough, you begin to ask whether you are helping, whether you are creating value, whether you are making a difference. This change in focus not only reduces anxiety but also increases fulfillment as your work becomes connected to something meaningful. Another important aspect is how this mindset influences relationships and opportunities. When you are genuinely focused on serving others, people notice. Trust builds more easily, collaboration becomes stronger, and opportunities often emerge as a natural byproduct of the value you create. In professional environments, those who prioritize contribution over recognition are often seen as leaders, regardless of their title. They attract support, build strong networks, and create environments where others thrive, which in turn amplifies their own impact. Over time, this approach reshapes your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone chasing success, you begin to see yourself as someone creating value. That identity drives your behavior in subtle but powerful ways. It influences how you think, how you act, and how you respond to challenges. You become more patient because impact takes time. You become more resilient because your purpose extends beyond immediate results. And you become more focused because your direction is guided by meaning rather than impulse. What begins as a shift in perspective gradually becomes a way of operating, where your actions are consistently aligned with something greater than your own interests. And as that alignment strengthens, so does your sense of purpose, your level of commitment, and your ability to keep moving forward regardless of circumstances, driven by a mission that gives your effort depth and your journey a significance that goes far beyond personal achievement alone. Because the moment you truly believe that, nothing can stop you.